Hey, my name is Mark Johnston and I do STEM education. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the brain again, and we're going to actually make some buttons that we can press on the brain and make it do certain things. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. You're actually going to have an optical one that is not like the others. They have converted over to interesting, all right? All right, here we are with VEX Code project open, and you can see my brain there in the upper right hand corner, and you can't see my brain in the lower right hand corner because I've got a skull. What? Anyway, bad joke. Okay, so here's my finger and here is the brain. It is a touch screen, right? So check this out. I made this program ahead of time, and we're going to work our way into making this same program. If I press the red, it shows me a red screen. If I press the orange, it looks like yellow, but it shows me the orange screen, and then purple. Yeah, it didn't really show up very well on the camera, but you know, you get the idea. All right, so you can do some really cool stuff with this. Of course, you know, instead of making it, turn blue, I could say, arm up, or I could say, shoot the cannon, or whatever it is that my robot is set up to do. Take Granny up the stairs, take Granny down the stairs. Say, I want to go to floor number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4, or it could be 8 floors or 16 floors. It doesn't have to just be 4. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, but let's start real slow, okay? So again, to print a rectangle onto the screen is fairly simple. I'm just going to say draw rectangle. But I do need to set the fill color of the rectangle. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more here, and this is still under the looks area. That's why they're purple. And I'm going to say set fill color to red on the brain. Now, if I just go from 00 to 1010, I'm going to say download this. And it wants me to save it. That's fine. It's going to say, there it is. And now I'll go ahead and click run. There's my itty bitty triangle right there. Okay. So you're like, well, I don't know how big the screen is. You can click this little question mark up here and then click on that block that you have. And here you go. I get some explanation. So actually value 1 and 2 are the X, Y coordinate that I want the rectangle to start in. And then the third value is actually the width of the triangle and the height of the triangle. And so it's going to draw, it's kind of got to think of the Y coordinates backwards. Positive Y goes down. So if I want to go to all the way to fill up the entire block, then I know this is real small, but it's 240 by 480. No, the other way around. It's 480 by 240. So I would go 480 pixels to the right by 240 pixels down. So I'll download that and press play. Now I have my big rectangle that fills up the entire box. Notice it still has a white border because it is filling in its default color, which is white. It's the line, and then it's filling that in with the fill color that we chose, which is red. So that's fine. So now let's take another step. Now let's say that we only want it to happen if somebody, say, touches the screen. So I'm going to say the print color, or I'm going to print on the screen. I'm going to say don't touch. Don't touch. Because if I say don't touch, what is any teenager going to do, right? Of course, they're going to touch it, right? So I'm going to say wait until. So I'm going to say it's going to print and say don't touch. So you know what? Let's go ahead and download that and just run it. Okay, don't touch. Okay, so I'm tempted. Touch. Nothing happens. So let's go ahead and make it alert me, the teacher, that, oh, they touched it, right? So I'll say under sensing, I have this screen pressed. And notice that's a Boolean. When they have the little, when they're hexagonal like that, they will return either true or false. So if the screen is touched, it'll return true. So it's going to wait until the screen is touched, and then I'm going to have it fill a giant big red box. So I'm going to download, press play, don't touch. Oh, no, I want to touch. There we go. So there you can see we can have just a touch event occur. Now that is if it's touched the screen anywhere. I can also set some stuff up so that if it's touched up here or down there or somewhere specifically on the screen, and that's how I did that program, right? But let's first set up our 4 boxes, because that can be a little bit tricky, right? So the first thing I do is build the upper left corner red box. And I'm just going to say fill color red. We can get rid of this touch stuff. You know what? I'm going to keep that one. There we go. So I'm going to say set fill color to red. I'm going to start at 0, 0. And then instead of going all the way across the screen, why don't I just do half, right? So I'll do, what would that be? 480 divided by 2 is 240. Hey, it's going to be a perfect square. And because I'm very visual, I'll hit download and run every now and then and say, oh, perfect. That's what I wanted. So now I'll go ahead and just duplicate that whole deal right there. And I will then set it to blue. How about blue? But this time I don't want to start at 0, 0. If I do this, it's just going to draw a red box and then a blue one right over top of it. I need that X value. I need it to shift over, right? I need that X value to shift to 240, right? Because that's where the other one ended. So I'll download that now and push play. Bada bing. There we go. So I got half the screen set up as red and half the screen set up as blue. But I do want to make 4 buttons, right? So I'm actually duplicate this whole thing, right? And instead of a red block, I'm going to say green didn't show up too good in my test. So let's do orange. And instead of 0 for the X, I need to start. Well, yeah, I'm going to start at 0. But then the Y, I need to start at 120. Hold up. Let me back up. Okay, we need to make these boxes half their size, right? So that's the width, and then this is the height. So I need it 120 and 120. And again, I just, download and run it. Okay, great. That's what I wanted. So now actually I can duplicate this. And now instead of drawing that red box, I'm going to draw why don't we do white? Sure, that'll show up great. So I'll do a white box, and it'll start, instead of 0, 0, I do want it at the X 0, but I want it at Y 120. And actually down here, this one is also going to be at Y 120 because I'm just shifting it down. And instead of blue, why don't I make that one? Yeah, we'll make that one orange, which actually on this camera looks yellow, but let's download and run it. Boom, I got my 4 boxes. That was pretty easy, right? Wow, white is, the white balance on this camera, this little camera pointing down is not great, but whatever, that's fine. Now you will notice that I did have text on those, and we can do that. It's a little bit tricky because you have to actually specifically tell it where to place the cursor before it starts to print the text. So for instance, for this red box, I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to set cursor to 1, 1. Let's work with each of these boxes separately. And so I'm going to set the cursor to 1, 1, and then just, what we'll do is we'll say red button, and then let's download that and run it. Now, notice that it's all the way in the upper left because it started in row 1, column 1. So remember, let's click our little question mark, click on the set cursor to row, scroll down a little bit in here, and you'll see, again, it's kind of small on my screen, but you'll see it's actually saying that there are 48 columns and 12 rows. So that tells me that each column is 10 pixels, right? 10 pixels times 48 is 480. And that each row is 20 pixels. 120 or 12 times 20 is 240. So I have these little rectangles that are the columns and rows, these little cells that are rectangles, columns and rows. So halfway from 12 is 6. So I probably want it on row 4, and I probably want to come in a couple. So row 4, column 3. And let's see how that looks. So I'll go to row 4, column 3, download it and run it. And it's not too bad, but I think I'm going to want to go to column 6 probably. Let's download and run. This is just where you kind of have to play around and get it to where you really like it. I think it should go up a little bit. So let's try row 3. And how about column 8? Download and run. Yeah, I like that. It's fine. All right. So at that point, let me copy this and I'll put it down here. Get rid of that. There we go. So my red button is doing good. Now my blue button, okay, blue fill it, and then set cursor. And then this is going to be the blue button. So I'll type in blue, keep it caps for consistency. Now, in this case, the row I want to be the same, but it's the column that's different. Remember, there are 48 columns, and so I'm probably going to be in the 30s is my guess. Let me try 32. It's like 32. It's a multiple of 8. It's a nice number. Okay, run. And yeah, it looks great. So perfect. All right, so I got to remember when I'm drawing pixels or when I'm drawing lines and drawing rectangles and stuff, I'm dealing with pixels. And when I'm drawing text or printing text, I'm dealing with rows and columns, which, yeah, okay. All right, so now let's do the white box. And this is going to be an interesting one, right? I'm going to have to probably make a change here. So let's duplicate and see what in the world I am talking about. What kind of change must he be talking about? So right here, let's see. This one's going to be directly below the red box. So I do want to be on row 8 or column 8, but then my row needs to change quite a bit. Now those rows were 20 pixels each, and there's only 12 rows. So I'm going to guess that I would be on like row maybe 10. Let's see. Download and run. And it doesn't say anything. Why? Well, look at that text. I messed something else up too. I changed. So this is going red on the brain, blue on the brain, white on the brain. So why is my blue now is white instead? Interesting. So it's doing red at 002440. Okay. At this point, what I tend to do is let's just figure out what happened. Download and run. Okay. Red button works fine. Grab this. And, sometimes I would edit stuff like this out if it was just a silly mistake, but here's an example of how you can troubleshoot. So now I'm going to put this block of code back and download and run. And now I get blue, but no text. Oh, because I didn't put the text there. So download and run. And sometimes you might actually have to go block by block to see what messed it up. So now if I set fill color to white, draw a rectangle there. See, why am I drawing two rectangles? What did I mess up? I think I dragged something where it shouldn't have been. So now let's download this and run. Okay, I get the white block, set fill color to orange, draw this rectangle. So what rectangle is this? Let's do this. Download this one and run. Okay. So somehow this guy, the 240, I duplicated that from up there. That's what happened. Okay. Yeah, probably going to leave that in. Sorry. But I think it was a good lesson in kind of how you can troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. Sometimes there's a lot going on. It can be hard to figure it out. All right. So now I need to set the cursor. So I've got the blue button labeled. That's good. Now we need to label the white button. So we'll pull orange down here, set cursor to row 10, 8. And, you know, we did it and this was when I made a mistake. But honestly, I was still expecting a mistake because I was doing it on purpose. And that's what I get, huh? You can't see anything because the print color, notice the red button and the blue button, the print color is set to white. That's why you've got a pen color here. And I'm going to change the pen color to black. All right. And then I do want to set the pen color back to white because it's going to show up better on this orange screen. And so now let's download it and run. There we go. Now we can see the white button. Okay. Now I'm getting in trouble when I'm copying so much. So let me set cursor to, now we should know almost exactly where we want our cursor to go to. Let's see, stay consistent. So we're doing it after we set the fill color, we're doing the rectangle and then we're setting the cursor and then we're printing our text, right? Okay, so we'll do that and then print orange box button. Okay, orange button. And so my cursor for the orange, the column will be the same as the blue. So here's blue, column 8. So I'll do column 8. And the row will be the same as the white. So the white is on row 10. So I'll go row 10. Now download and run. Uh-oh. So orange button got printed in the wrong spot. So I'm going to set my cursor to row 10, column 8. Because blue is on column 32. There we go. Download and run. There we go. All right. You know, you could go in there, like say orange is not quite centered and it would look better if it was up higher. You can do all the fine tuning, tweaking you want. I suggest you get to a point in your programs where it works and then save it. So let's save that right now. I'm going to call this 4 buttons and save, file, save. All right. So 4 buttons is saved and I'm good. I got 4 buttons. Now I'm going to say wait until screen pressed. All right. And when the screen is pressed, the cool thing about it is it remembers where it was pressed. And so like right now, if I press the screen, it has stored in it an X and a Y value of where I pressed the screen. Now, I could make some very specific spots on the screen that I want if you press something to happen. But I've done something here intentionally to make things a lot easier. And so let's start out by just saying if it's red or blue. All right, if it's a red or blue. So let me take out, and so I'm going to go from white. Okay, so let me take out the white and the orange box. Let me download that and play. So in this situation, let's say that we had it the way we had it, where the blue button extends all the way down and the red button extends all the way down. If I press anywhere less than X is, let's say X is less than 240, right? Because it's 480 wide. If X is less than 240, I must be pressing the red button. And the great thing about that is that if it's less than, if the screen is pressed and it's less than 240, it's red. If it's not less than 240, that must mean it's greater than 240. It is blue. So I'm going to use an if else. So I'll go to variables, not variables. I'll go to control and I'll select if else and plop it down right there. Now, notice that, I have this if statement and it's not inside a loop or anything. So it is only going to evaluate it once. And that's fine for right now. Because if I press the screen, notice it's waiting until I press the screen. So when I press the screen, now the screen will have values. And so it will be either greater than or less than 240. So I'm going to grab an operator under the green area. And I'm going to say less than 240. But what less than 240? Well, let's go to sensing, and then there's nothing else attached to this brain. If I had buttons and different things like inertial sensors and stuff, I'd have a whole lot more options under sensing. But under sensing, I have brain. So screen, X position. If the screen X position, and watch, if I can click the question mark and then select that, it's going to tell me reports the location of the last detected touch on the V5's touchscreen. Perfect. So if it's less than 240, then it's red, and I want it to print a red box across the entire screen. So that's real simple, right? We did that earlier. We would say set fill color first, because it's going to remember the last fill color that it was, and in this case, it's blue. So I'm going to say set fill color to red, and then draw rectangle. I want it to start at 0, 0 and go all the way to 480 by 240, so it'll be the entire screen. Now I'm going to duplicate this because else, so if it's less than 240, it'll be red. Else, I want it to be blue. So here we go, blue. And it's going to print a whole blue. Okay, let's download it and test it. So in this example, I'm saying if we did just 2 buttons and this red one went all the way down and I press anywhere here, it's less than 240 and the whole screen turns red. Now, because I'm working with my brain right over here, I can just push this little back button. I can push stop and play again right here. So I don't have to go back to the computer, back to the brain, back to the computer. I can stop my program and start it again right there. So now I'll press green or blue, and there it is, blue. I'll go back and stop it. And then notice that if I touch down here, it's still going to go red. Okay, so if I wanted to confine it to that top area, I would need to add more conditions in that if statement. And that's what we're going to do. All right, so now we want to make it conditional on not just the X, but also the Y. So let's go ahead and add back our other buttons. So I'm going to put all these buttons right here. Okay. And let's live dangerously. I'm going to go to My Blocks. Okay, I haven't introduced this yet, but I'm just going to show you real quick. Click on My Blocks, make a block. Okay. And in the name, we'll just call this the 4 or we'll call it draw for button menu. Okay. Draw for button menu. Don't worry about the inputs or anything like that. Just draw for button menu. And when I click OK, I'm going to get this new hat block. So I have the when started hat block, and I have define draw for button menu. So now I'm going to click all these suckers right here and put them on the draw for button menu. Now, the cool thing is I can go hide this guy off to the side, and then I can use this new block, this newly created block. Anytime I drop that in there, it's going to draw my 4-button menu. And then I can pull this guy up here. Boom. It's a lot nicer to do it, because, especially when I'm not really going to be changing any of that stuff. And I might want to draw it again later at another time or something. I don't know. There's so many different ways you can use my blocks, but there's your little added bonus for you. Let's go ahead and continue on with our buttons being pressed. So if it is, let's download this real quick and run it. Perfect. So let's work on that, say the white button. If it's less than 240, it's either red or white. And just like when it was less than or greater than 240, it was either red or blue. Now, if it's less than 240, it is either going to be red or white. So I'll say if else. And what determines if it's red or white? Well, the Y value. And so I can do the same thing. I can actually duplicate this guy right here and put it right here, and I'll change the X to a Y. And so I'm saying if X is less than 240, means it's on the side with that red and white one. And then if Y is less than 120, okay, because the whole height of the Y is 120. And again, I'm going to say it over and over. You have to remember that on the brain, this brain, Y values are they're going up as they go down. All right, so 120. So if it is less than 120, that means it's from the middle of the screen to the top of the screen, then it is going to be red. So I'll drop that in there. I'm going to duplicate that, because if it is not red, then it must be white. Just like that. I'll go ahead and download this just to test it out and play. Now, if I press right here, of course, it goes red. That's what I was expecting. Push stop and play again. If I press right here, it turns white. Just what I was expecting. Okay. All right. Now I do the exact same thing with the blue side, right? I'm going to pull this out, because if X is less than 240, then that means Y. So if X is less than 240, then I am going to I could just copy this whole thing. Watch this. I'm going to drag that here. I'll copy this whole guy right here, because I'm still dealing with Y. If Y is less than 120, let's download and run so we can look at our buttons. Okay, so we're saying it's either blue or orange, right? So if it's blue, Y is less than 120. Because we've already determined that we're on the X side. The screen was pressed, and it wasn't less than 240. So it must have been greater than 240. So that means it's either orange or blue. And then what determines whether it's orange or blue? Well, if Y is less than 120, well, then it's blue. If it's not, well, then it's orange. Just like that. So look at this control structure that I've got set up here. I've got an if else, and then inside of each of those, I have an if else and an if else. Take a look at that very closely, because what you're looking at right there is a very traditional, control structure flow of, is it this? If not, then go down here. And then is it this? If not, then go here. So I have these 4 possible outcomes that are all defined by XY coordinates. So At this point, let's give it a shot. Let's go ahead and download it. And we will run it. And don't go anywhere because I'm going to show you something here at the end. Because you'll notice, here, I'm going to push orange. It turns orange. And then I got to click back. Did I have to do that at the beginning of the video? I did not. So here's what I'm going to do. When I push those buttons, I want it to change. I want it to do that, but then I want it to wait for just 2 seconds. And then I'm going to have it, I need it to redraw that menu and then wait to be pressed again. So I'll just do forever, just like that. I'll download it and then run it. And there we go. It should go 2 seconds. I can press another one and it's just like it was in the very beginning. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that and you learned a lot. And if you did enjoy that video, I would appreciate it if you could click on the like button. That really helps me out a lot. If you'd like to see videos like this a little bit earlier than other folks, click that join button, okay? Just click it, see what it's about. What's that about? Anyway, thanks so much. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.